Hello, my name is Michael Luchs. I am chair of the marketing department at the Mason School of Business, and I very much appreciate and I'm honored to be able to provide a few final words at the end of this conference. My apologies for not being with you in person. I have a parents' weekend at Virginia Tech with one of my sons, and so I hope that these final words provided virtually will give you some thoughts to help wrap up this weekend. I'm a big fan of WMGIC. I've been involved with the event in the past as a judge and have a lot of respect for students who have taken the time during a busy time of the year to really engage with each other and really think about important big problems that many of you are going to go on to be addressing after you graduate. So I wanted to share with you a few thoughts that hopefully can build on what you've been learning, drawn from my own work on wisdom. Wisdom is something that we address in different ways through our classes and experiences at Women Marry, but we don't really talk about it explicitly. And I think that there's an opportunity to really identify a couple key wisdom principles at this point to help you sort of pull together what you've learned and think about how to bring it forward. As a little bit of context, here are a couple quotes that I think really kind of make a terrific point, which is that we are social beings that have created technologies, oftentimes with unintended consequences, and our ability to do things economically and in the industrial complex, enabled by, supported by government and guided by technology, it has accelerated, and at the same time, our ability to deal with all of this really hasn't. And I think wisdom is an important key that is really going to help us make sense of our time, our moment, but also be able to be more effective as change agents, which is really how I think of a lot of the work that you are doing and will be doing in the future. So a couple just quick definitions of wisdom. Wisdom is defined in different ways by philosophers. Aristotle sort of saw wisdom as the ultimate virtue. When we have competing virtues like justice and loyalty, you need wisdom to really reconcile those. And when you're dealing with different people and different needs, wisdom is really an important principle to help you navigate that. From a psychological perspective, this is maybe a bit more tangible. You can think of wisdom as pursuit of the common good by balancing our own needs, our interpersonal needs, and extrapersonal interests across short and long-term orientations. So that's really the biggest difference between sort of being smart and being wise, is that we have a broader set of concerns and perspectives and a broader time horizon. But it begs the question, what is the common good? And one of the things I encourage you to think about is not just the common good, which may be obvious with some of the issues that you're addressing and the one in particular you addressed this weekend, but to recognize that in addition to the common good, you're dealing with individuals in these different systems and governments and organizations, and understanding what drives their behavior and understanding their needs as much as you understand society's needs is really important. So that you can drive change and be relevant. So the first thing, therefore, the first key that I want you to focus on is real human values and needs. And I would encourage you to be students of psychology and to really understand what motivates people. Obviously, we want a clean environment and we want a fair and sufficiently large economy. But at the individual level, what really drives people in terms of their behavior when we think about consumers, but also as decision makers and organizations that you're going to be working with. What is it that really drives them? By better understanding this, you're going to be a more effective agent of change by better relating to different people with different needs. But a lot of needs we share in common. And I'm drawing from a movie I would encourage you to watch. And each of these keys, I'm going to give you a source to check out more information on your own at another time. But we have very real psychological needs that we want to consider while we think about, for example, the environment and the need for jobs and purpose. We have all sorts of other needs that we need to be thinking about as we are solving problems. And again, I invite you to think about the people on your teams when you're working with teams, when you're working with different agencies and groups. recognize that we all share these needs in common. The number one that's been identified as really incredibly important to well-being is really community, family, friends, it's relationships, and your ability to develop great relationships with the people you work with, the people that you view on the other side politically or with a given issue, is really important to being able to be persuasive and effective and to come up with even better possible solutions. So these are some of the psychological and physical needs. And of course, it's bigger than that. It's also shifting away from extrinsic goals. We need to have enough money, and we do care about our image to some degree, but also realizing that when you're dealing with people that may see things very differently than you, that for them also the things that are most rewarding will be personal growth, relationships, and helping others, although they may have different ideas about what that means. So be a student of understanding people's values and goals at the individual level. We're trying to affect great change for society and for the environment, but we do that by really understanding people and making sure that we consider their individual needs at the same time. Related to that is key two, listen deeply. Listening is such an important, and I believe, and many other people believe, sort of underappreciated skill in our society. And we see lots of evidence of that today, certainly in our public discourse around politics and all sorts of issues like climate change. But there are real people on the other sides of these issues, and being able to really understand their perspectives, their biases, understanding your own biases by listening to other people is really critical. So being a good listener is important to absolutely everything. It promotes healthy relationships, and relationships are the basis for all the work that you're going to be doing. And as I mentioned before, the number one predictor of well-being. Listening is an underdeveloped skill. It's not something that we explicitly teach in really in many of our classes. We practice it to some degree, but it's not really treated as a skill, but it is a highly learnable skill. And I can't in this short few words really convey exactly what those skills are and the ways to become a better listener. But I can suggest a terrific resource. This is one of my favorite books recently that I'm recommending to lots of folks. Comes from David Brooks. The essence of it, there's much more to it, is ask bigger questions and go deeper. And the book does a great job of really explaining how to do that. And this can be really transformative for you, I think, in your relationships on teams and also your relationships with all the different stakeholders you're engaging with in different projects. The final third key I'll mention today is to adapt. And being able to adapt depends on openness. And when I say adapt, I mean adapt in many different ways. I mean adapt as you're working on solutions. Be adaptable in terms of what those solutions look like and how they work. Be willing to learn as you go and change your direction, maybe sometimes even dramatically. But adapt can be used another way. And another way I like to think about sort of the concept of adaptation is to adapt solutions from different domains that apply to your situation. We can learn a lot from different people, different ways that things are done in different places. So this is why the liberal arts are so important, to study different cultures, to study history. One of my favorite sort of domains to adapt from is nature. And there are lots of great examples about how we can learn from nature, and this is a terrific website I encourage you to explore. And just to give you a bit of a sense of different ways that we identify solutions from sort of natural models that have been evolving over the last 4 billion years. Here's a very specific example of how bullet trains in Japan were very explicitly designed to mimic the shape of the head of a kingfisher, the same way that a bullet train travels at high speed and enters a tunnel, which creates all sorts of engineering problems. And it's why they have to slow down, which causes other problems. The same way that a bird has to enter the water at high speed when it is fishing. So this is just one of many examples. This happens to be a physical example, but I think there are lots of great metaphors in nature for how systems organize in nature, et cetera. So be a student not just of people, but of nature, and find other sources of inspiration. Just for fun, I took the idea of this. Everyone's sort of enamored with AI now. I think they're certainly risks to AI and great limitations, but I think great potential too. And so I took the idea for me of sort of exploring alternative ways to design houses and build houses. And I asked AI, what would happen if bees built human houses? What would that look like? And here's an example. It took a few seconds, but I think it's really a great AI can be a great creative thinking tool to help you imagine different ways of doing things by building ideas from different domains. And I encourage you again to, this is a physical example, but to use the metaphor, of how bees organize their societies and how decision making happens in the bee world, and think about how we could apply that to human problems as well. And just a final word as you wrap up today. Congratulations on the great work that you've done. We really appreciate it. Really proud to be associated with WMGIC and all the students and the volunteers who have participated, and external partners from William & Mary. But want to encourage you to, as you think forward to your careers, there are real problems in the world, but there's a lot of great stuff going on. We don't notice it oftentimes because of the news that we follow. So try to get a balanced media diet, find, great news sources that inspire you, and invest in the relationships, the people around you today. They could be lifelong, partners and collaborators along the way, and enjoy the journey. We need people to be optimistic as they explore solutions. And I think there's every reason to be optimistic, especially with students like you focusing on these issues and guiding the way forward. Thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity, and I wish you all the best. Take care.